And there's the sunrise. Oh well, if there's one thing dear father loves, it's to sputter with outrage.
What's the meaning of this, young lady? How dare you stay out all night enjoying good friends and enchanting music? You should learn to be more like me, old and miserable.
I don't belong. I don't belong.
Oh, you poor thing. You really are lost, aren't you? What is that? Do you hear that? It's coming from just over here. Oh, the air feels thick somehow. Right here. Oh, it's like sticking my hand into a jar of honey. And now I'm stuck. Oh, come on, hand. Let's have you. Oh my.
I'm writing this on May 8th, 2019. When are you listening to this, I wonder? Who am I speaking of, the listener might ask? Well, if you're not her, and by that I mean if you haven't met me and taken me places, then you're not the you I mean. When you left, you said you'd be right back. That was 2 years ago. Obviously, right back has a different meaning for you than for me. Mind you, you told me once that sometimes time works differently there than here. So maybe only minutes have passed wherever you are. It's also possible that something's happened, that you're injured somewhere, or worse. But I choose to believe that you're simply distracted. And I know from our travels together that there are a lot of distractions waiting for you. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now. After the marvels you've shown me, knowing that they're out there but beyond my reach. I feel like I've been in limbo. Yeah, I've done some work, but only half-heartedly. And as for relationships, well, I've neglected the people I know and haven't sought new friends or acquaintances. Perhaps I haven't yet accepted that you're not coming back anytime soon. If at all, to whisk me away. I know it's not healthy to live like this, so I'm writing this script. Perhaps it'll act as a kind of therapy. Before we met, funny, but it's hard to imagine that there was a time before we met. But there was, and before we met, I was doing all right. I wasn't rich, but I had enough to get by, some savings on the side. Socially, I was content enough, if not overly happy. I'd recently lost a friend, and I've never had many of those, especially the close ones. I don't mean that they died, it was more like they woke up one morning and, as they were brushing their teeth, thought that we might as well not be friends anymore. All I know is that they dropped out of touch, ignoring messages and phone calls, making their intent abundantly clear in the resounding silence. It wasn't the first time this had happened, and I wondered sometimes what was the point in getting close to another person if, well, in the end, they're just going to abandon you. Or was there something the matter with me? Did I drive people away? Did I drive you away? Did I matter to you? Or was I just one of countless people you've encountered, befriended, and more? Didn't occur to me at the time, but that's most likely the case, isn't it? Do you remember the day we met? It was in Kensington Gardens, and I was quite alone, gazing at the statue of Peter Pan. Or at least I was gazing in its direction, lost in thought, contemplating the ephemeral nature of friendship. To my right, towards the edge of the trees, I heard you speak.
Well, that was close.
I turned in your direction, You seemed to have staggered or tripped over something. I'd neither seen nor heard you coming. Steadying yourself, you looked around and noticed me standing a few feet away. And I'm sure I was regarding you with a curious expression. After all, you were naked.
Hello.
Are you okay? Are you in trouble?
Oh, right. People normally wear clothes in this world. Don't worry, I can fix that. You can turn around if you're bothered. Sorry if I embarrassed you.
Well, I will do, but I'm not so much embarrassed as worried.
Thanks. But don't mind me. I'm fine. There. How do I look?
I still remember what you were wearing. Panama hat with a black ribbon tied in a bow, blue long-sleeved crew-neck shirt, khaki trousers, and some red leather shoes. Your curly auburn hair, which glinted in the sun, dropped to almost shoulder length. There was something about your hair. I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. Later I realised that somehow your hair was always in motion, even if there was no breeze, as if it had a life all of its own. Yeah, you look fine. And if you're okay, if you don't mind, I'll be on my way.
Actually, can you hang on a second? I'm looking for someone. And you're not them. But there has to be a reason why I've come upon you.
Well, does there? Does there have to be a reason?
I think so. You know what? I would love a coffee. Is there a place nearby where we could chat? Would that be okay?
I regarded you, an apparently unassuming, guileless woman. Your expression was sunny, and your smile infectious. I really didn't know what to make of you, but I was curious. Sure, there's one just a couple of minutes away.
My name's Susan. Susan Follows.
Will Fallon. Nice to meet you, Susan.
Oh, this is good.
Enjoying it? Yeah, Americana's pretty good as well. You said you were looking for someone.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I am. And you're the link. But I'm not sure how.
I was probably looking at you expectantly, waiting for you to say more. After taking a couple more sips of coffee, you did.
Have you heard of the multiverse theory?
Changing the subject?
Not really, no. Have you?
Yes.
Great. So, somewhere out there, there are other places, other realities, reflecting different choices, different events, and even different laws of physics.
Okay, sure.
And sometimes there are cracks between the realities. And sometimes people can fall into them.
You're serious? Okay then, so people literally fall through the cracks from one reality to another.
Exactly. Well done. The person I'm looking for has done just that. I'm here to help them get back to their own reality.
And you think I can help?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure. Yes.
Let's say I suspend my disbelief for a moment. What happened? I mean, exactly, how did you end up here?
I came upon a crack in reality. It was closing. And the way it was humming, I could tell that somebody had already passed through. The only way that I'd be able to help bring them back was to follow them before the crack closed. So that's what I did. And I barely made it. Half a minute later, and it would have been too late.
So, that's why you said that was close earlier?
That's right. Sometimes, the crack, the doorway, whatever you want to call it, it takes me right to the person who crossed over. Other times, not so much. And some detective work is called for. I've done this enough times now that I'm turning into a regular Sexton Blake.
Sorry, you?
Never mind. Just me showing my age.
Well, I'm not sure what to say to all that.
You don't believe me? Never mind. I can prove it to you after. But for now, tell me about yourself.
Honestly, I thought about just getting up and leaving. But I was curious. And I remember thinking that maybe I could use a character inspired by you in a story. But how much of myself should I reveal to a perfect stranger? There wouldn't be any harm, I suppose, in telling you what you could find out by doing a Google search. Well, there's not too much to tell. Consult as a technical writer, published a couple of short stories, I write the odd book review for The Independent.
I need you to think. Has anything out of the ordinary happened to you lately?
Well, 100 quid in the lottery, first lottery win.
Congratulations. But that's not it. Anything else?
You know, the only truly odd thing was when I met my cat.
Oh? Do tell.
Well, I was walking by the Serpentine one evening, a couple of months ago, when a small cat, little more than a kitten, came out of the darkness. She kept pace with me, stopping when I stopped, walking when I walked, finally stopped and bent down to pet her. Noticing she had no collar on or tag, I figured someone must have abandoned the poor thing. So I said to her, well, I guess there's nothing for it, you'll have to come home with me. The thing that was odd wasn't just the way she emerged from the darkness to join me, but the way her eyes widened when I said that.
That's it! That's who I'm looking for. What's your cat's name?
It's Sam, short for Samantha. So you're telling me that you've been looking for my cat? Did you lose her?
I think she lost herself. Will you take me to see her?
Hang on, just a second. You said you were looking for a person.
What? Oh, of course. You think she's just a cat. Except she's not. Firstly, I had no idea who I was looking for. Just someone who had accidentally come into this world. And secondly, where she comes from, cats are considered to be people, as much as you or I.
Okay, I think this has gone far enough. I'm sorry, but I don't think I'll be taking you to see her.
Ah. Right. You want proof? Tell you what, this evening, say at dusk, come back to the spot where we met. I'll show you something that will change your life.
I'll think about it. Meanwhile, it's been fascinating to meet you, Susan. Enjoy your day. And with that, I rose, we shook hands, and I left the shop. I turned when I got to the door and I saw you sipping your coffee, your eyes closed, your face full of contentment. Do you remember where I live? It's on the top floor of a beautiful old house. Short walk from where we met. My living space is quite idiosyncratic, with sloping ceilings, alcoves, oddly shaped rooms. It has a unique personality and I love it. When I sat at my desk, Sam leapt into my lap and settled herself down, her claws digging slightly into my legs. Still no idea what breed of cat she is, I don't really care. I think she's a mix. All I know is that she has like a white belly and the rest of her is alternately white, orange and black. Oh, Sam. Are your ears burning? Was talking about you with someone. Very interested. Wonder if I should have thrown caution to the wind for once and invited her here. Sam purred while I scratched. Where did you come from, I wonder? With that, Sam turned her head towards me for a moment, then laid it down again on my lap. That's when I made up my mind to meet up with you again. The day droned on and I found myself restless, unable to focus on the story I'd been writing. I had no better luck getting into the book I'd promised to review. It was near dusk when I set out from my unit. As I walked, I wondered why I was doing this. I mean, it made no sense, so I suppose it was pure instinct. Something told me I should. And knowing myself, if I didn't, I'd always wonder what would have happened. Having reached the Peter Pan statue, I looked around. There was no sign of you. After a time, I'm not sure how many minutes, I saw you strolling along the path in my direction.
You came! Fabulous. Care to sit for a minute? First, a question. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to see this? Because once you do, nothing will ever be the same. Are you ready for that?
I think you believe what you've been telling me, but, you know, I really do need to see something amazing to be convinced. So go ahead, amaze me.
All right then. Let's move closer to the trees. There's more shelter there.
After telling me to stand back, you positioned your hands in the air as if you were about to pry open a sliding door. And then you opened it. Beyond the entrance, I could see another world. What struck me first was the light. It had a distinct magenta hue. There were mountains in the distance, their peaks disappearing into blue clouds. The ground was covered with tall, bright yellow grasses. And upon the grasses were creatures I'd never imagined. Large and small, buzzing, singing, chirping. Some were as large as elephants and had round orifices, mouths I assumed, on the sides of their bodies. Some were small as golf balls. In fact, they looked like golf balls. White and round and dimpled, but they jutted out purposefully, changing direction willy-nilly. I stepped back, stunned, and stumbled, falling backwards, never taking my eyes off that incredible sight. You let go of the door and it closed, sitting down beside me. You patted my hand.
All right.
How?
How? You mean, how did I do that? No idea, really. I just can. Look, you've had a shock. Shall we go to your place? Give you a chance to recover a bit? Then we can talk some more.
I fumbled with the key as I let us into my unit. You insisted I take a seat in the living room, and then you made a pot of jasmine tea, set it on a tray with a couple of large mugs. After taking a few sips, I came back to myself and took a good look at you. I'd avoided doing that on the way home, feeling a need to ground myself in reality. Sam, who'd been hiding up until then, came up and rubbed against your leg.
Hello, you beautiful thing. May I pick you up? I've come to take you home. What do you think of that?
Am I taking leave of my senses? Look, who are you? Where are you from?
I'm from London. Whether this world's London or not, it's hard to tell anymore. I was born in 1903. Time can pass differently in the other worlds. When you spend time in them, sometimes much more time has passed here. Or less. It depends. I honestly don't know how old I am at this point. Sometimes I feel like I've been doing this forever. As for travelling to other worlds, it started when I was 20, and I came across a homeless man. He seemed, I don't know, out of place somehow. Bewildered and lost, like he couldn't believe where he was. It was dawn, and I was on my way home from a party. Quite a good party, actually. I knelt down beside the man and found that the closer I got, the greater the feeling that he didn't belong. I patted his arm, and then I thought I heard a humming. I moved in its direction, and I realised that it wasn't a hum. Not really. I was just interpreting the sensation as a hum. I came to the source of it, and after some trial and error, pulled at something in the air. It felt like a heavy curtain. Oh no, that's not the best way of describing it. And there was another world, but not just any world. It was the world that the man had come from. I took his hand, I helped him to his feet, and together we crossed over. I spent some time there. I'm not sure how much. But when I returned to my world, it was the late 1940s. I'd missed the Great Depression and World War II. My parents were dead, and my brother had aged 20 years and had a family of his own. I didn't go to him. How could I? How could I have explained where I'd been or why I hadn't aged? So, with nothing in my world to tie me down, I set off exploring, helping displaced people whenever I could, trying to do some good with this gift I had.
I feel I must be dreaming. Like I'm gonna wake up and none of this will have happened. I'm sure my face was full of distress and confusion. I felt lost, like nothing in the world made sense anymore. You, bless your heart, stepped closer, your face beaming at me, your eyes sparkling. As I looked at you, I felt my breathing become steadier. Finally, you took my hand. and made a suggestion.
Maybe a good night's sleep will help. Don't you think?
I'd been badly shaken. My sense of what was real and what wasn't shattered. I realised that you were both the cause of my distress and the cure. Yeah, I think you're right. Sam had always been happy enough to stay indoors, but not all the time. When she was ready, she'd scratch at the door until I let her out. Sometimes this was in the evening, sometimes during the day. What she did outdoors, I'd no idea, but I was thankful she wasn't the sort to bring back dead animals as a prize. She began to scratch at the door while we breakfasted the next morning, and I let her out.
She may want to say goodbye to her mates in this world.
At this point, the sad reality hit me. I was going to lose my cat. But as you pointed out, I'd want to return home, even if a family in some other world had taken me in. And of course, you were right. It'd be best, you said, to wait till dusk. There was something about dusk and dawn. They were the easiest times to open a doorway. In the meantime, perhaps I could fill you in on what life was like in this world. Just then, I got an alert on my phone, and this piqued your curiosity. We talked about smartphones, the internet, social media. We talked about how enlightenment ebbed and flowed in society over the years, and about how, at the moment, it seemed to be ebbing. We had lunch, we watched Star Wars: A New Hope. I think it's safe to say you were enraptured by that, as I was stunned by your demonstration the previous day. We went out afterwards and found ourselves in Portobello Market. Spent ages window shopping and people watching.
This reminds me of when I was growing up. When we were children, we'd dress in our best clothes, and my parents would take us for walks by the shops to look at the people, and of course, to give people a chance to look at us. A different time.
To my surprise, your eyes became teary. Up until then, you'd been endlessly cheerful and excited, but of course you're only human. You were robbed of your early adulthood, weren't you? You hadn't asked for the gift you have, or for what happened the first time you helped someone. Honestly, I wasn't sure how to behave towards you that day. I kept my distance, content to follow your leads, but now with you so sad, I tentatively put my arms around you. You hugged me tightly in return. In the late afternoon, we grabbed some Indian takeout. We went home, in case Sam was waiting to be let in. She was. She sipped water and nibbled on cat food while we ate. It was your first time eating Indian food. I couldn't help but chuckle at your reaction to the spicy dishes. Dusk found the three of us gathered together in Kensington Gardens. I'd already told you that I wanted to come with you, at least for a while. I had auto-pay set up for my bills and enough savings to keep things going for a while. You warned me that I might be gone for longer than I hoped, that there were no guarantees. You also warned me that sometimes it wasn't safe. Yet I longed to see some of the wonders that you'd seen. And if I was honest, I wasn't ready to say goodbye to you yet. You looked at me when you were ready, and I nodded. You turned and opened the door. I asked you how it worked. After all, there were so many other worlds out there, how could you find the right one? You weren't sure, but knew that if you opened the door with one hand while touching Sam with the other, we'd get to the right place. And you were right, because after we stepped through, I heard Sam speak for the first time.
Home.
I thought that nothing would ever shock me again. But I fully admit that this was a surprise. You laughed when you saw my face. All I could do was gape in your direction.
Sam's not really talking. Cats and other non-human creatures use a non-verbal language here. And now that you're in this world, your brain is interpreting that as a sound. You'll get used to it. Meanwhile, there's something we need to do.
Ah, yes. You'd warned me. We had to remove our clothing, since in this world humans remain nude, unless the weather was cold or wet. So we took our clothes off, stuffed them in our respective backpacks. I felt self-conscious at first, and I was relieved that I'd made a point of trying to stay in decent shape. But before long, I thought nothing of it. Sam rubbed against my leg. I knelt down and she looked up at me.
Thank you.
And with that, she turned and left. I was surprised by the tears in my eyes. Bless your heart, you hugged me and took my hand.
Let's have a look around this world for a while, shall we?
We'd emerged in a park, or so it seemed. In fact, this world was pre-industrial. I soon saw that people lived simply and happily, growing their own food, their small dwellings fashioned from wood and stone and grasses. Children played, women and men worked on gardens, repaired rooftops, sewed clothing for the brief winters. We strolled through a village where people bartered for goods, trading seeds for tools or baked goods for woven material. Animals such as dogs, cats, ponies roamed freely and entered into conversation with each other and with humans. I understood it all, somehow. We came upon a small lake on the other side of the village and lay on a grassy area near the beach, when we watched the birds and buzzing insects in the clouds.
It's not always this peaceful. But I've learnt to just enjoy worlds like this when I find them.
I don't think I've ever felt so rested and at peace as I did that day. We boarded with a family on the outskirts of the village, receiving food and lodging in exchange for stories. I spoke about my world, with its technology, geography, and politics. Ugh. And you spoke of some of your adventures. I was as spellbound as they were as we listened to you. Despite the comfortable bed, I slept little that night, as I considered the impossible wonder of being in a different world. The following morning brought a pleasant surprise. Sam was waiting for us as we emerged. Sam?
Hello, Will.
Are you alright?
I was just a kitten when I left here. Too much time has gone by, and my littermates have gone their separate ways. This is my world, but I don't think I can be happy here. Not without you.
Sam, I can't tell you how happy you've just made me.
So you'll come with us?
Yes.
That day we left for another world, and the next day another, and many more after that. Sometimes I saw wonders, other times I saw things I wish I hadn't. Things I couldn't unsee. On some worlds, Sam could speak. On others, she couldn't. Or, perhaps more correctly, I wasn't able to hear her. It was exhilarating and mind-expanding and exhausting. Finally, there came a time when I began to get homesick. And I think you sensed this before I spoke about it. I asked, finally, if you could take me back for a little while, just so I could get my bearings and a bit of rest. You did, and the three of us found ourselves back in Kensington Gardens. I glanced at a newspaper and was relieved to find out only 2 days had passed in this world. We were about to enter my building when you said you thought you heard a familiar humming and needed to check it out. You gave me a hug, told me you'd be right back, and dashed away. Wonder if you'll ever come back. I hope so. Until then, I remain your faithful friend, Will. Postscript. I've given this letter to a producer of audio dramas. They consider it fantasy, and I don't blame them. My hope is that someday you'll come back, and if you can't find me, you'll look me up and find this letter. At least you'll know that I never stopped thinking about you. Because I never will. I won't lie, it's been hard since you left. But I think writing this out has helped. I realise that as much as I miss you and miss our adventures, I'm much better off having known you. I watched you closely on our afternoon together in my world, and was taken by the way you saw the extraordinary and the most ordinary, everyday things. I think that now I appreciate the little miracles all around me in a way that I never did before. The buzz of bees, the happy play of children, the warmth of the sun. And then there's Sam. And the fact that she chose to come back with me out of love. Not only did she not abandon me, she gave up her world to be with me. You both made me realise that I shouldn't be afraid of relationships, even if they turn out to be fleeting. There is so much to gain from being close to someone, you know? There's a woman at work that I like. That I think I like. We're meeting for supper this evening. Who knows what will come of it? But that's really the point, isn't it? It'll be another adventure. The end.